Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Coming up tonight on Our News, the Agriculture Minister challenging opposition to the Fisheries Bill. One-on-one with the Chief Justice ahead of the opening of the legal year. And one Junkanoo group granted Crown land. We'll tell you what that means for other groups. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, amid legal action over the Fisheries Bill, Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources Michael Pintard is suggesting some are hijacking the Fisheries Bill over one component. He questions whether some former members of Parliament have an investment in the fisheries sector. Pintard also challenging reporters to ask those former MPs if any of them have a relationship with commercial fishing vessels and whether that has motivated their position on the controversial bill. Giorgio Bain reports.
Amid legal action against the government citing the new fisheries bill as discriminatory, Minister of Marine Resources Michael Pintard responding, saying the debate so far has been far too Nassau-centric and more fishermen are actually in support of the bill. A group of foreign-born fishermen, their spouses, and commercial fishing enterprises have taken legal action against the government, claiming the Fisheries Bill 2020, which specifies that only Bahamian citizens are permitted to engage in commercial fishing in the Bahamas, is unconstitutional and discriminatory. However, Pintard says he doesn't believe it's an issue of discrimination as much as it's an issue of immigration.
If discrimination is the ultimate issue, then let's have an immigration debate. And I would gladly join that, because I do believe we need to move faster to ensure that those persons who qualify for permanent residence, for citizenship, that happens. And I think Mr. Johnson is doing a wonderful job speeding up that process. But let's have that debate. But to hijack a fisheries bill on the basis of one component, that's unfortunate, and I don't think it will happen. But if the court makes a decision, again, I believe we should go to the next level. Let's enshrine it in the Constitution. Former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram, East Grand Bahama MP Peter Turnquest, foreign fishermen, their spouses and children, as well as some Bahamian fishermen, have spoken out against the bill, calling portions of it discriminatory. The Agriculture and Marine Resources Minister said many questions must be raised as to why this bill has gained so much attention. Of former members of Parliament, how many of them have an investment in the fisheries sector? It would be an interesting question. And you should pose it to all political sides and then ask, are any of them connected or have any relationship with commercial fishing vessels today? Has that in any way motivated the position that they have taken on this particular subject? That is not to say that people don't have a position based on conscience. I want to make that clear. Some do. But I think others have economic interests. In December, Pintard said there will be no adjustments to the bill. He stressed on Tuesday it is meant to protect natural resources that are at risk, as well as to protect Bahamian fishermen. As long as I'm in the chair, I don't intend to sign another work permit for a non-Bahamian diver to get a compressor permit. Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Well, the 2021 legal year will open under much different circumstances this year, thanks to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Our Jasmine Brown sat down with Chief Justice Brian Moree for a one-on-one about how the pandemic has impacted the traditional opening of the legal year and how courts have functioned over the past 10 months. Here's her report.
Well, as the Chief Justice put it, the opening of the 2021 legal year will be much different. And as you can see just behind me, it will not be held in a courtroom, but in Rawson Square.
This year, because of COVID-19, we've had to adopt a very different approach.
And according to the Chief Justice, that different approach entails holding a hybrid ceremony in Rawson Square that will include pre-recorded messages and in-person speeches by the CJ, Attorney General, and President of the Bahamas Bar Association. The Chief Justice admitted that operating the judicial system during a pandemic has been anything but easy. In March, only days after the Bahamas recorded its first case of COVID, Sir Brian announced multiple measures for the judiciary's coronavirus mitigation protocol, including a reduction in the use of court buildings, enhanced cleanups, and social distancing.
I have actually issued 13 iterations of court coronavirus protocols since March. And that gives you an idea of how dynamic the exercise has been. There was no one plan that we could come up with that was going to address these issues. We had to be very agile and very reactive to what was going on in terms of the ground as the national government was trying to contain the transmission of the virus. And so we all know that we've gone through periods of lockdowns and curfews and relaxation.
And the CJ says they have had to be just as adaptive when it came to the opening of the legal year. Under the Supreme Court Act, there is a statutory requirement to have a formal opening of the legal year on the second Wednesday in January. But due to COVID-19 protocols, this year's ceremony will not take place in a courtroom. There will also be no red mass church service. Instead, religious leaders will send pre-recorded prayers and messages.
Normally, we have a red mass, which actually has a tradition going back hundreds of years, which is conducted by the Catholic Church. We were not able to do that this year. After consulting with the Archbishop, it was felt that that would not be appropriate. We normally then, on the day of the opening, gather in Parliament Street and we march to Christ Church Cathedral and we have a church service there, and then we come back to the court. After speaking to the bishop, that also was cancelled this year. So it's particularly important that we are having members of the clergy bring their own reflections and their blessings on all of us who are involved in the administration of justice.
Another new component this year will be the addition of video messages from chief justices from across the region. As for what the CJ will address in his speech on Wednesday, he said he will highlight ongoing efforts to modernize the courts, the backlog of cases, and the way forward for the judicial system amid an ongoing global pandemic. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Be sure to join host Jasmine Brown tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for RTV's live coverage of the opening of the legal year. In other news, a 24-year-old Grand Bahama man today charged with attempting child stealing in a magistrate's court. According to police, a man traveling in a silver vehicle attempted to lure a girl, a student of Walter Parker Primary School, into his car on January 6th. Then on January 7th, he allegedly attempted to lure another girl, a student of Maurice Moore Primary School, into his car after school. However, police say this attempt was thwarted by a suspicious school crossing guard who sent the little girl back onto the school's campus. In court today, Justin Seymour was arraigned before Magistrate LaQuay Lang on two counts of attempted child stealing. He was not required to enter a plea and was granted bail in the amount of $20,000. The Arden Forest resident is required to wear an ankle monitoring bracelet and is prohibited from going near schools. He's required to sign in at the island's central police station 3 days a week. Seymour returns to court on May 13th. And Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis confirming that the Shell Saxon superstars have been granted Crown land. However, he insists there was no favoritism involved, as other groups have the right to apply as well. Kyle Joaquin has that.
We're standing on the 3.1 acres of land that will be the new home of the Shell Saxon superstars. This after they were granted the piece of property by the Prime Minister. Now, earlier today, we spoke with the leader of the group, Percy Roller-Francis.
Many years now, I had the vision. I always wanted to see a home for the Saxons, saying Shell Saxon superstars.
After more than 2 decades of applying to successive governments, the Saxons Jungle Group finally has a piece of property to call its own. 3.1 acres off Fire Trail Road West. Saxon's leader, Percy Roller-Francis, says while the land was granted by Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who happens to be a long-standing member of the group, due process was still followed.
We identified the property, all right, and we took all the necessary steps. Firstly, of course, the incorporation of the organization was key to it. We presented a business plan. We also presented an architectural drawing of actually what we have proposed to do out there as well.
Minnis assured there was no favoritism involved as the application came across his desk and the group followed the process, which included being incorporated.
They applied for land on the Gladstone Road area that they found, that they identified. They applied for it, that had nothing to do with me.
Minnis said, in fact, all other groups have the right to apply. He added that his government has been looking for years within the inner city to find land for all of the major groups, but to no avail. He said it's a part of a vision he's had for Junkanoo setters across the island.
So the Valley may have a Valley Museum, the Saxon Museum. one family, a one-family museum. So as tourists come, they can see the history and the evolution of that particular jungle group. And they can become involved in making and designing small pieces.
And now land is being cleared as the Saxons will be first to bring that vision to fruition.
It's going to be something different, and it's going to be something unique, and something that will be the Saxons can be proud of.
And while this new property will serve as its headquarters, Francis says the group isn't necessarily abandoning its first home, Mason's Addition.
In fact, we wanted land in that area, and we have been denied.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Thanks, Kyle. Partly cloudy skies outside the Our News studios tonight. Here's Greg Thompson in the weather studio. Greg?
Thanks, Christina. Our first look at weather tonight. I'm meteorologist Greg Thompson. We take a look at conditions outside our studios. Mostly cloudy skies to overcast, some light showers, and some rumblings of thunder. Temperatures in the mid-70s, 75 degrees. The winds are light and variable. Feels like temperature 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Satellite view, we have a lot of moisture coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, courtesy of an upper level southwesterly flow that's going to continue to produce some showers and some thunderstorms across the area tonight through tomorrow. So look for that to continue in your forecast. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, why the health minister is defending COVID-19 travel protocols. But first, why one BPC shareholder doesn't want Bahamians to miss out. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
As Bahamas Petroleum Company enters week 3 of its exploratory oil drilling 90 miles west of Andros, one of the company's shareholders is expressing concern over the future of the project. He tells our Kyle Joaquin he hopes Bahamians don't pass up on a golden opportunity.
It's jobs for people like you, for people like your children in due course. It's high-level jobs.
Tudor Lomas, a UK citizen currently living in Amsterdam, says after following court proceedings and the arguments presented by environmentalists, he's worried that if oil is indeed found in Bahamian waters, Bahamians would push against it and miss out on a golden opportunity.
Reputable international business it comes to countries that respect the rule of law. And if you persuade somebody to invest in your country and then say, as soon as they've made the investment, tell you what, clear off, we want the money, we've got the information, you can go now. You're not going to get people coming back. And my concern is potentially that is what's going to happen.
Loma says he's been a shareholder since 2011, and while considered a significantly small shareholder, he has enough to be concerned about the project, but not enough to be in deep trouble if something went wrong. BPC's drilling has been underway for nearly 3 weeks now. Last week, a Supreme Court justice refused an application to have drilling halted by environmentalists who fear damage to the country's marine environment if there is an oil spill. However, the judge did grant leave for a judicial review into government's decisions to authorize the drilling by BPC 90 miles west of Andros.
There are an awful lot of safeguards around. And I just think you, as the people of the Bahamas, have a right to know if it's there. I would also say don't hang around. Oil is a very valuable resource now. It probably will be for another 6, 7, 8, 9 years.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis has already come out saying he is totally against oil drilling in Bahamian waters, but that the agreement was one his government met in place and could not get out of.
I would embrace it and be really grateful that you have an adventurous company like Bahamas Petroleum, which is a small company that cares about the Bahamas. There are many people invested who really want to see good things come about in the Bahamas as a result of this.
The former journalist said at the end of the day, he feels if oil is found, it would be to the benefit of not only BPC, but Bahamians as well.
Oil will benefit the poorer people in the Bahamas, everybody who needs a job, taxpayers. It will help with the reconstruction. Yes, of course we want to make some money as well. You know, we don't invest money just giving it away. You know, we've invested it, hoping to get a return, but a fair return. That's what I want, no more.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
In other news, 4 men were arraigned in the magistrate's court today on murder charges. Bethany McDermott has the details.
22-year-old Anthony Enellis, seen here in the Blue Hill figure jacket, was charged with the January 5th murder of Carlisle Johnson, who was killed during a shooting incident on Lincoln Boulevard South in Montel Heights. Police say a group of men were in a yard when a gunman opened fire, killing Johnson. Enellis was also charged with possession of a firearm with the intent to put another in fear. He was not required to enter a plea and bail was denied. Meanwhile, 26-year-old Leonard Simonet, seen here in the gray jacket, and 18-year-old Mauricio Webster in the white shirt are accused of the December 23rd murder of Bradley Strawn, who was shot and killed on Rupert Dane Lane shortly after leaving home. In court today, the men were not required to enter a plea and bail was denied. Also in court today, 30-year-old Kenneth Cummings in the red and blue shirt, who was charged with the December 8, 2020 murder of Vincent Knowles Jr. According to the police report, the victim was shot and killed on Forbes Street, Nassau Village. Cummings was also not required to enter a plea and bail was denied. Deputy Chief Magistrate Andrew Forbes remanded the men to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until February 12th, when they will return to court for service of a voluntary bill of indictment. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Well, following the recent revelation by health officials that 21,000 travelers skipped the mandatory rapid antigen test 5 days after arriving in the Bahamas, the opposition has called for stricter travel protocols. However, Minister of Health Renward Wells is defending current protocols, stating that COVID-19 numbers are under control.
Well, the numbers doesn't bear that out, eh? You know, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The numbers says where we're at. And so we'll be looking at the numbers going forward. Remember now, these protocols were in place from November the 1st. We're almost 2.5 months down the road from November the 1st. And as we can see, the circumstance in country is still in hand.
Wells asserts that the low case numbers and current positivity rate speak to the strength of the current protocols.
0.1% of those who tested, 0.1%, not 1%, 0.1% tested positive with the rapid antigen test. Okay, it speaks to the strength of the health protocols. It speaks to the fact of us requiring that our RT-PCR test 5 days before you come, a shortened window. And so I think that the health protocol so far is bearing out the way we would like to see it.
There's more news coming up, but first, your RF Market Watch.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, there's no place like home for some Sweetings Key residents. And in sports, hoops action continues. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is our news. Welcome back. 9 residents of Sweetings Key will get new homes thanks to a joint effort between the Rotary Club and the TK Group. Jared Higgs tells us even after those 9 homes are built, the Sweetings Key project will continue building more homes.
Heather Fester was born and raised in Sweetings Key, Grand Bahama. Like so many others in the small fishing village, Fester's home was destroyed during Hurricane Dorian.
Just like everybody else, taking it one day at a time, trying your best to get the pieces back together to try and get completion.
The deadly storm brought the same fate on Pandora Bethel, a retiree who has since moved to Freeport. She says with no home, she gets by on the generosity of others.
And I just hope God just blessing on whoever chose to help us, because we really need it. We need the help.
The Sweetings Key Home project by Rotary and the TK Group is looking to help. They are building 9 homes on the Key, up to 80% completion in the first phase. The crews building the homes are camping out on the Key, only leaving on weekends by choice. It's a tough task because all materials have to be brought to the Key, but Area Governor for District 6990 Grand Bahama Billy Jane Ferguson says they're committed to the cause.
And so we'll be building 9 homes for this community, and as the program go along, more homes will be added. So we're encouraging all residents of Sweetings Key, no matter if you were totally destroyed or just had some damages to an existing home, to make sure fill out an application.
So this initiative that this partnership has brought to the Key is going to provide direct relief to individuals who are very much in need.
Boat engines provided by Rotary have also allowed many residents to return to the seas and make a living. Life surely isn't back to normal for them, as many are living off the Key or in tents on the Key. Far from ideal, but these Sweetings Key residents are optimistic.
With this initiative by the Rotary, it's going to be everything. But either way, you do what you have to do until you can do better.
Back to what it was, or even better. Even better than it was before.
But not only get back what we lost, but to build back stronger, so that in the event that we have a storm of this nature again, that we don't suffer the catastrophic loss that we would have in this storm.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Thanks, Jared. The latest in sports is coming up, and it could be a rainy week ahead. Greg is back in studio after this.
Welcome to our news, and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. Sounds like there may be some rain ahead this week. Here's Greg back in the weather studio.
Thanks again, Christina. In our second look at weather, we take a look at our satellite view around the area. Frontal boundary across the Gulf of Mexico, coupled with an upper level disturbance pumping a lot of moisture across the area. Frontal boundary in the Gulf of Mexico will stall across South Florida by tomorrow, but we expect another shot of high pressure to push that frontal boundary towards the south. But in the meantime, look for some cloudy conditions, some showers and some thunderstorms to continue through our area tonight through the next couple of days. Your boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas. Your winds will be out of the north to northeast at 5 to 10 knots. Seas running 1 to 3 feet over the ocean. While in the southeast Bahamas, we have a caution flag posted for you guys down there. East to southeast winds 15 to 20 knots. Seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. High tide is at 7:10 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Sunday. That's a look at our weather. Have a safe night, everyone. Christina?
Tonight in sports, hoops action continues in the college and NBA seasons with Bahamians hitting the hardwood. Marcellus Hall has the latest.
All right, thanks a lot. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. We are in the swing of the basketball season, which means we're seeing a lot of our Bahamian players in action, both on professional and collegiate ranks. Let's get you all caught up on a number of those games from the past weekend. The country's 2 NBA stars seeing some action yesterday, starting with Buddy Hield and the Sacramento Kings as they hosted the Indiana Pacers. Hill would play 30 minutes on the ball game, finished up with 18 points on 6 of 11 shooting from three-point range. Would also add 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. Kings go on. They get the win, 127-122. The next game comes your way on Wednesday when they take on the Portland Trail Blazers. As for DeAndre Ayton, he and the Phoenix Suns on the wrong end of a lopsided blowout. They fall to the Washington Wizards 128-107. Ayton, 24 minutes on the floor, finished up with just 8 points and 6 rebounds. Suns now with the loss fall to 7-4 in the season. They're third in the Western Conference. They get ready to take on the Atlanta Hawks. That comes your way on Wednesday as well. Kai Jones, 4th-ranked Texas, continue their fine play over the weekend. Longhorns battling back from a late second-half deficit. They take down 14th-ranked West Virginia. Kai with a solid performance, 10 points, 4 rebounds, and a block in the contest. Teammate Andrew Jones hitting the three with 1.1 seconds on the clock for the game winner. 72-70 ends up being your final score. Longhorns, they also play on Wednesday when they take on 15th-ranked Texas Tech. And that is indeed your look at sports here on this Tuesday. Back to you.
Thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. Stay tuned. The Prime Minister's New Year's address is coming up next. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.